Hello, Seynabou. My name is Majigen Sek. I'm interviewing you for the African Society. The African Society is an association that brings together all the staff of African descent in the World Bank Group and in the IMF. Its mission is really to help us build a better career, but also to amplify our voice. Seynabou, in the last months, you've really been involved in the efforts of the World Bank Group to create a more inclusive workplace, and it has been a journey. Can you please give us your perspective on that journey? Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you, Maji, for having me, and thank you to the African Society. You are right. What a year it has been, not only because of COVID having such an impact on our lives, but also on the professional front with the work that the bank has been doing to help our client respond to this crisis and doing it from a home-based work. So for many of us, it has been an added dimension. It has been quite a year also on the inclusion front, with really the death of George Floyd about a year ago, bringing us lots of sad emotion, but forcing us to really confront some of the issues we're facing and having a conversation about that. And unfortunately, the recent sad events we've seen with the Asian community are another stark reminder that this is not a conversation that belongs to one ethnic group. This is a conversation that belongs to everybody, and everybody needs to take responsibility of it. If I, fast forward a little bit and try to look back at how this conversation about race came about, when that unfortunate event of the death of George Floyd happened, it really created lots of awareness, lots of sad feelings in the community of Black staff of the bank, and especially female staff. I think that for many of us in George Floyd, we saw our children, and we really started thinking about race. What does it mean to be Black in an institution like the World Bank? What does it mean in terms of being a Black woman, in terms of career progression, in terms of really feeling invisible and not necessarily heard? And from there, as often as African women or women of Afro descendants, we are prone to do, we moved from emotion to action. We just wanted to turn that into really a catalytic moment to put that conversation on the table. And I do think that the bank heard, and with the creation of the task force that was mandated by the president, we saw funding and a space to really push that conversation. So from that emotion to action at AFREM, to the task force really taking this on and mounting that response. But what really struck with me is that it wasn't just about talking about it in a general front, but having people take responsibility. And everywhere in the bank, whether it's in operation, where they really looked at how to incorporate race in our operation, in the guidance notes that we have for several of our instruments, to really in the social development and inclusion group, how do you think about those in the day-to-day work that they're doing, to different task force being set up in every single VPU, to think, for instance, in Africa West, to think about our values. What does it mean? In the LAC region, to really think about culture, the role of culture, but also how do we attract and retain Black staff, whether of Afro-Latino ascendants or Caribbean or African, so that we incorporate diversity to the work we do. So it's really that watershed moment, and the survey on race also helped shed at least some numbers into that. So I do think that it has been a journey, but at the same time, there are many challenges that remain going forward. This is still a fragile agenda. It's important to not leave it to the whims of just the next news or to performative action. It's really important that it gets to the DNA and to the mindset and to the behavior. And we all know that this is very hard to do, especially at times where we have so many competing demands, where we have to deliver, how to make sure that we continue to prioritize. How do we make sure that we continue to put it at the heart of what we do and we continue to make progress in that agenda? It's going to be everybody's responsibility.
Thank you, Seynabou. Seynabou, as you reflect on your career in the bank, including your current position as Director of Strategy and Operation in the Latin America and Caribbean region, what advice would you give to African women on how to build a career? You've talked earlier about moving from emotion to action. And I think many of us have had many emotions about their career and now want to move into action empowered by the work that you and all our African sisters have been doing. Thank you.
No, thank you, Majigen. I came to the bank for the first time in 1998 as an intern, which is like what they call short-term temp. I've been a consultant, I've been a young professional, I've been a country economist, I've been in different side of the matrix and on corporate and in different regions. So that gives you a little bit an appreciation of the different position, but also what a journey it is to go through the bank. And I do really hear you when you say that it's not always an easy journey. I think that we have to all take stock and recognize that. The second thing that I wanted to say that whenever you take that journey, it's really important not to lose oneself and really be anchored on who we are, on where we come from. And because at the end of the day, we are the best in our job when we bring everything that we are in that job. And that is the value of diversity. As they say, if you don't bring your diversity at the table, then maybe you shouldn't be at that table. So rather than taking it as something that has affected our career, it should be something that enriches, that brings a different perspective. So I want to reflect a little bit on a conversation that we had. I was invited by the Colombia team on International Women's Day with a panel of other colleagues from the bank to really talk about also gender and career. And I think that some of the points that were discussed there are also relevant here. And one point is really the need for a very supportive environment in the first year. A very supportive environment that comes often from your own managers in terms of giving you that protection that you can do your job, that you can experiment, that you can really grow, that you can be mentored so that you are able to find that voice that we are talking about. Because at the beginning, it's not easy to find it. So I think that that part is important. The other part that is really important is also learning from other people. For instance, in my case, I remember having to go on mission 3 weeks after maternity leave, and my baby was premature, and that was something that really worried me a lot. And talking to another colleague, she gave me advice. Why don't you go with your mom and ask your TTL and so on? And I did, and it went well. But I just feel that so often when you do not feel that you can share your concern, there's so much suffering that people are going through and sacrifices that they're making. And it really makes a huge difference to have that flexibility to really bring those different parts and be able to do it. So that's something that I think that I'm bringing from that conversation. Another point that was discussed extensively that I think is also relevant from the point of view of this conversation, they discussed the issue of the imposter syndrome, that many women, when they are in the workplace, sometimes feel, do I belong here? And what came out of that conversation was that it was really important to separate whether this is something that is coming from your head or it's coming from the outside. But it brings us back to diversity. You have worked hard to be here. You belong here. You have your place here. The bank is your bank too. Don't have any question or any doubt about that. So then that comes back to trying to control how does it come from the outside. And so those are the type of thing that having also a safe space where you can explore. And I have to say, for me, AFREM has been that safe space because it's a community of women, it's a community of African and Afro-descendant women, or culturally related women who really want to come together and discuss all those issues, discuss about impact, about how do you really grow. So it's really important to have a space. I know that there are many affinity groups, and how do you use, as a woman, as an African woman, those different groups to sort of find your voice, ask those questions, and silence the voice that are not helpful for you. So it is a journey. The journey doesn't stop. I don't have the ultimate solution. I'm in this journey also, but those are a few things that I thought were really interesting in that conversation.
Thank you so much, Seynabou, for giving us your perspective. Your thoughts are encouraging for us. They are refreshing and they're empowering. Seynabou, any other thoughts you would like to share? Any last thoughts?
Two things. One, we have to be more than the sum of our different parts, and I always look to the African society as that. It goes beyond one subgroup of us, and it also encompasses other organizations. So I really hope that we can support it so that it can live to its potential, because it's going to be also that federating voice and that big space where we hopefully all can find that support. Finally, again, I always say that, and it's, I think that the bank is a fantastic place. We have a mission that is worth working, and we all have our place here. So
Thank
that's
you,
my last
Seynabou.
word.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting to share your thoughts. And to our colleague of African descent, like Seynabou said, we need to be more than the sum of our parts. Please join the African Society. Thank you, Seynabou.